Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation, silver and inflation. Let's explore. When most of us think of inflation, we're not thinking about silver, we're thinking about our currencies. You know, usually the dollar, the peso, the yuan, other currencies, the pound, the euro. We think about what it can buy us these days as compared to what it could buy us in days past. The most measure that we can see is year over year numbers of where inflation is. This dollar that you see before you here is now worth about 93 cents compared to 1 year ago. It's quite a drastic difference. And at the rate of these currency, these units of measures here, these debt instruments, at the rate these things are printed, it's no wonder they're losing value. And it's of a growing concern that everybody's talking about it. So let's talk a little bit about what inflation is. I'm going to be referencing an article from Numismatic News that refers to this, and especially with how it relates to our coinage. There's two general definitions of inflation. Number one, it's an increase in the money supply, and two, an increase in the money supply that is greater than the increase in the production of goods and services. When you have a greater amount of money chasing goods and services, the cost of raw materials, labor, overhead, and capital costs increase, which results in higher consumer prices. Rising prices are the outcome of the effects of inflation and are not in self-inflation. So think about that. It is kind of interesting to think about how that's played out. It's an increase in the money supply, and when you take a look about the production cost and the production of goods and services, what's involved in that? Typically, there is a shortage of goods and services that occur, and we have supply chain issues that are exacerbated by the pandemic and other factors as well that come into play. And so couple that with the increase of the money supply that we're seeing with quantitative easing that has been occurring really for about a decade now, more than a decade. And just now they're talking about really kind of pulling back, but nonetheless, it's kind of too late. And so it has become a problem that everybody is talking about. Rising prices, if you look at it from the opposite direction, reflects a decline in the purchasing power of the monetary unit. Because of the close association of inflation of the money supply and rising prices, today, a higher percentage of people consider the rising prices themselves to be what they mean by inflation. But really, it's the result of inflation. Even definitions of the word itself will list this as a characteristic. But there is something about this being in a vacuum. And so really, inflation of the money supply or rising prices are kind of going to be utilized to further kind of pinpoint what we're talking about here. So when you take into account this currency and its strength of it, inflation can rise and this can be stronger. And we're seeing that today. And why are we seeing a strong dollar and gold and silver prices going down? Well, you've heard me talk about that in prior videos. And that is because though the dollar is rising, is losing value, especially at a rate of 7% per year, as of the latest statistics, it is still stronger than other currencies that are out there. And so when you measure it against the strength of other currencies, that is why you are seeing it being so high and so strong, because the dollar is the top world's reserve currency. But then you have coins, and at a time where there were coins that the value of the metal that was contained in the coins, everything was much more on an equal playing field. And they were created to facilitate commerce through the use of standardized monetary units. Part of that is the value of the metals in the coins, and the values were solely dependent on that metal. Unfortunately, inflation of the money supply has been around almost since the first coins were struck over 2,600 years ago. Just to give you an example, here is how ancient Roman coins were experienced inflation of the money supply, which is depreciation of the currency over time, as exemplified by the silver denarius and its successor, the Antonianus, which is declared by law equal to 2 of denarius together. So in 211 BC, there was the introduction of the denarius, which is 4.55 grams of between 95 and 98% pure silver. And then in 44 BC, they weighed a little bit less under Julius Caesar. They were 3.9 grams of 95 to 98% pure silver. Then by 64 AD, under Nero, they were even less. They weighed even less, 3.41 grams of only 93.5% pure silver. And then by 148 AD, under Antonius Pius, it was 3.41 grams of 83.5% pure silver. In other words, they were debased. And the silver was debased around the same kind of measure. That gave people the sense, hey, they've got the same coin, but it has less silver in it, and they didn't even know it. Only the people that made the silver knew it, because there was really no tools to test it for the average person. They may be able to tell slightly by the patina of the coin, but largely it was kind of unrecognizable. By 235 AD, under Severus Alexander, Antonianus, the double denarius, was 3.41 grams of 50% pure silver. So great reduction in the base of silver, and they had doubled the denomination of the coin at the time. The Antonianus of 238 AD, under Pupienus, was 2.6 grams of 2% pure silver. Wow. So by this time, you're seeing a pattern here. Although I will say that later on, in 274 AD, the Antonianus was 3.41 grams of 5% pure silver. So they started to increase a little bit of the supply there, but by that time, that was kind of the beginning of the fall of the Roman Empire as we knew it at the time. During the Middle Ages, a common practice was to shave off metal around the edges of coins, which was called clipping, in order to then put the smaller piece back into circulation. When done at the orders of the ruler, the recovered metal was usually then used to strike more coins to increase the money supply. So it was essentially sanctioned. Today, the global monetary units no longer tied to fixed weights and purities of precious metals. Governments can more easily inflate the money supply through simple striking of more base metal coins, or printing more currency, or even easier, simply entering bookkeeping entries on a computer. Now that's today, but let's take a look at some semi-modern examples here. We can see that we've got some bullion in the middle. We have U.S. constitutional coins on this side, and we have world silver coins over here, which varied in silver purity. You had coins that had 90% silver coins in various different styles, and others that had less, 0.720 in some cases. You had other coins that had 50% silver, and then others that went all the way down to 30%, 850, all different kinds of styles, and I'm trying to find it here in this mix. But in Mexico, they end up going with a coin that was only 10% silver, as you can see here. But even this 10% silver coin here is still so much better than what Rome had done by about 238 AD of a very small coin that weighed 2.6 grams, less than a tenth of an ounce, of only 2% pure silver. So you can see the various different levels of silver, and keeping track of it's been very difficult, but it's kind of fun to collect these kind of coins that come in these various different styles and purities of silver. In the United States, we kept it pretty simple. Most of our silver remained 90% all the way up until 1964, and they just completely debased it by that particular point in time, to where there was no more silver in our coins. And now the only silver that you have that the mints produce is bullion coins, and most all of it has been 999s fine or 49s fine. There have been some notable exceptions, such as the Britannia, which was 958 silver, and other 925 silver offerings, sterling silver, and once in a while maybe some 90% silver bullion. But you don't see that very often these days. Most of the modern silver bullion that you see out there is 999 fine plus. But nonetheless, when we see what was happening here with global monetary units here, and no longer tied to fixed weights and purities of precious metals, the government is free to do what they want to inflate the money supply. And base metals, they're not even limited to that anymore, because even these, and we're seeing somewhat of a shortage, we've talked about that, where they can't get the base metal coins to circulate. But what they do is they print more paper. Even easier to print paper, costs less. But even more so than that, they just digitize entries on a computer, bookkeeping entries on a computer. Over history, inflation of the money supply has been a frequent reason for the collapse of various forms of money. It is even in process here in America, where the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar has fallen more than 98% against an ounce of gold since early 1933. And the best example of that really would be what the quarter is here. Here's a quarter that was minted in 1955, and this quarter can buy you a whole lot more now than it did in 1955, just because of the pure content of the silver contained therein. $0.25 can probably get you a gallon of gasoline then, and get you a gallon of gasoline right now, even with inflated prices kind of where they are at. Very interesting indeed. So when you take that into account, it goes to show you that the metal itself, silver, preserves its value over the course of a long period of time, especially when you look at it through the auspices of the coins that were circulating at the time, that literally $0.25 is noted here on this coin, and the metal that is contained inside of it is worth so much more. It has stood the test of time. That's what silver is, and that's what silver does. So yes, you can debase, such as countries have done, especially foreign countries have done with the silver content. Sooner or later, people get wise to it, and you can see how they kind of play around with the silver content in their coins over the course of time and history. But sooner or later, it's going to catch up to them, to where their currencies are not going to be worth as much, because they've taken the silver out of their coins. So I believe in holding precious metals, and that's why I do it. I think it's fascinating to have these foreign silver coins to get an idea of what it was like, and back in the day when silver was used as currency, as well as being recognized as money. So I hope you found this video insightful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.